People. Let's talk about food. Today I have my special guest. He is the co-founder of Yana, fueling humans, not astronauts, real food, sports nutrition, blending gastronomy, gut science and endurance performance, and cooked from organic, sustainable ingredients grown in France. None other than Mr. Christopher Bellamy. Welcome, Mr. Chris, on Food 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
No, you got it pretty much spot on. I'm an engineer and now an entrepreneur. And I used to be an athlete and had a lot of health problems from sports nutrition. And that's why this whole project, that's where it all came from. I switched to eating real food and it transformed my performance and my health. And after reading about all the science of science and performance and how real food is more than enough to fuel most athletes, while also kind of protecting their health. That was the reason we launched Yana. And we launched it 6 months ago. And we've already got thousands of athletes who are switching to eating real food. And it's a really exciting time.
Real food indeed. We like real food, Mr. Rihanna. So today let's talk about fueling humans, not astronauts, fixing the sports nutrition paradox. For our audience, let's define the sports nutrition paradox. Is it the idea that we prioritize hyper-specific lab-grade protocols over foundational human nutrition?
Yeah, exactly. So people do sport to be healthy, and yet then they eat the things that are possibly the worst for their health. They eat very highly sugary products, often ultra processed, and they often can contradict a lot of the good yourself by keeping active and moving. You can undo a lot of that good by eating foods that are actively damaging your health.
When did sports nutrition shift from being about enabling great performance and health to becoming a performance obsession that can sometimes undermine both?
Yeah, it's actually been a progression of the last nearly 90 years. The first sports nutrition study was done in 1936, I think it was. And since then, people have kind of, found that, carbohydrates, they slightly outperform, fats in terms of the energy that they kind of give over a period of time. And people have got absolutely kind of, blinkered into this world of carbohydrates. And businesses then picked up on that. Businesses started then to say, well, let's encourage a culture of pasta parties and carbohydrate loading, because it was great for the pasta companies, the bread companies, whoever it was. And in all of this, we've started to treat the human body like a machine, and so people have talked to like the human body's like a machine. And when I was racing triathlon, I was also designing electric cars, and I used to think of myself just like a car. I'd be putting energy into the car and I'd be getting energy out and going faster. I'd be thinking about my aerodynamics. I'd be thinking about my rolling resistance, just like I was in the cars. And then actually, we're not a machine. We're a living, breathing organism. And not just one organism, we've got our microbiome. We've got billions of microorganisms helping us out as well. And so that's really where all of this came from, where athletes are starting to get health problems as they're treating themselves like a machine, and people are starting to stop and wonder and say, actually, maybe performance isn't about just fuel. Maybe performance can be more holistic, and that's, I think, a really exciting trend in the sports nutrition industry.
Very well said, Mr. Chris. You used the powerful metaphor of feeding astronauts. What are the key traits of this approach and why is it fundamentally mismatched for 99% of people who are active?
Yeah. So when I was racing triathlon, people took themselves very seriously. And actually, the vast majority of people, more in a survey in France, 90% of people responded, and they were not looking for performance. They're looking for fun, pleasure, health. And Yet there's this culture in the sports industry that's very sterile, very masculine, very elitist. And sports nutrition businesses treat an elite athlete the same way they're treating someone going for a run on a Sunday morning. And so when we were pitching this product, we kept saying, well, why eat space food? You're not an astronaut. And the name just stuck. And so we've really embodied this philosophy now. And we're really embodying it by saying, the brand is called Yana. It stands for You're Not an Astronaut. You don't need to eat space food to perform. But also there's hint there as well of don't take yourself too seriously. And also that we've got to look after this planet. We love the idea of fueling athletes, or terranauts as they sometimes get called, in exploring our planet with the same kind of curiosity and wonder and respect with which we'd explore another planet. And that's the philosophy we're building, particularly around sustainability as well. Our products are cooked from organic pulses in the south of France, so chickpeas, lentils, things like that. And they are one of the best foods you can kind of grow for the environment because they help reintroduce soil structure, they help sequester carbon into the ground. And so sustainability is also a really big part of what we're doing alongside athlete health.
How much of this paradox is driven by multi-billion-dollar industry selling complexity, and how much is driven by your own anxiety and fear of getting it wrong, Mr. Chris?
Yeah, I think the sports nutrition industry has got to where it is because it's the most profitable thing it can be. So if you just take very highly refined sugar, mix it into a gel and put it into a sachet, it costs pennies to make. And yet you can also then simplify it and you can say that this is a high performance product that's highly optimized. And so you get a lot of perceived value because you get benefit. So you can charge a lot of money for it, but it costs very, very little to make. So commercially, sports nutrition is really interesting because you can sell something that's incredibly cheap for a lot of money. And part of the origin of this is actually from the regulation that is in place to protect us. So in Europe and in the USA, there's a lot of rules about how you can market food, how you can sell food to people. And actually, the rules often say, it has to be very high in a certain mineral or a nutrient. So in Europe, we have to say, to say something's high in protein, we have to has to have more than 15% of your daily allowance, or something like that. And so what it means is that as a company, if I want to advertise my product and I want to market it as high in protein or gives you energy, it means that you have to artificially enhance it. You have to concentrate it, dehydrate it. You have to add additional minerals. And so we end up in this strange world where if you want to be able to market your product and push it to people and try and encourage people to buy it, people have to make their food artificial and concentrated. Whereas just, a humble vegetable, the regulation kind of says, actually, you can't really do any marketing about a humble vegetable because it's just a generalist. It's got a bit of everything. It's got all sorts of different nutrients and vitamins, and it's not high in one thing in particular. And so for me, it's a real problem with the legislation in our food industry. It was designed to protect us, but actually there's a risk now that it's doing more harm than good.
Hmm, interesting, Mr. Chris. We have more biometric data than ever, like glucose monitors, sweat sensors. Is this a data empowering, or has it created a new layer of paralysis and confusion for everyday athletes?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting transition. So my first sport as an athlete was rowing, and when you're rowing, you've got both your hands on the oar. You're rowing as a team, and really, it's not possible to have kind of data and live feedback. And because because you're trying to row in time with everyone else, it's all about feeling. So you develop this really intuitive feeling, understanding of your body, being able to listen to your body. Whereas, for example, when I switched to a sport like cycling, everyone's got their computer on the front of their bike. They've got their metrics. It's telling them their power, their heart rate, everything that's going on. And I think that data can be incredibly useful. But the trouble is when you have that data presented to you all the time, people actually can lose the ability to just listen and feel to their own body. And our intuition, our ability to pick up on our feelings and our senses is absolutely amazing. And data can be so useful, but I think we also need to remember the strength and power of intuition, and listening to our own bodies and listening to what we need. And one of the things with data is that data will always be wrong. Data will, it's a bit like a broken clock is only well, a broken clock is right twice a day. A clock that's 5 minutes behind time is never right. And data's the same. Data is a technology company's interpretation of what is going on in the real world. It is a huge simplification of reality. And while that's really useful in some cases, sometimes we can forget that it is a simplification and the real world is actually incredibly complicated and dynamic and evolving and changing. And so, yes, we can always try and get better and better data, but actually, the real world is incredibly complicated, and sometimes we have to just trust on intuition and gut feeling, which is taking thousands of inputs, thousands of bits of data, and processing them subconsciously. So yeah, my encouragement is for people is to, yes, look at the data, but also to remember to use your own feelings and senses as well.
Certainly, Mr. Chris. In a world obsessed with the 1% marginal gain, how do you make the case for the 80% foundational gain that comes from a simple, consistent human nutrition?
Well, and in fact, it's very easy to make this argument because um, eating simple, good quality nutrition doesn't only give you the base 80%. It's actually essential for getting even the top and peak performance. And there's some fascinating research coming out now around the microbiome. And actually, if as an athlete you have a poor microbiome or a poor gut health, for example, if you've got a leaky gut, your ability to absorb nutrients, whether that's a processed pork product or a natural food, your ability to process nutrients, to digest them, to have a resilient gut that doesn't get disturbed by foods when you're doing sport. To have that, you need to eat healthily. You need to eat well, and so the Copenhagen Institute in 2024, they had a consensus statement that said that to be a top performance athlete, the fundamental base before you do anything else is you've got to have a healthy body. So health has to come first, and then you can start to optimize on top of that. And so what they call this in the sports nutrition industry is food first, where they say athletes should eat food first, as a priority above anything else. And you should only supplement if you've got a deficiency or if some situation, or environment means that you're unable to eat real food immediately or straight away. And so the food first philosophy is using real food as the foundation of your pyramid before you go and kind of, try and optimize any tiny little bits on top. And when you do go and try and optimize those little bits on top, the International Olympic Committee say it's really important to do a full risk-benefit analysis to analyze what are the benefits that is going to come from this supplement or this, processed food, and does that actually outweigh the risks? And more often than not, it might not be worth the risks.
Mr. Christopher, the best meal plan in the world can feel under life stress. How should our nutrition approach adapt when our work, family, and mental loads is high rather than doubling down on strict astronaut protocols?
Yeah, I think this is really a good question because time is now one of our most precious commodities, and having the time to eat and cook real food, not everyone has it. That is the reason we made Yana, because um, we've put the real food, they're cooked and they're put into these practical pouches. And so a lot of our athletes will have a box in the car, a box in the office, a box at home. And they're really there as that sort of emergency real food when you haven't got time for something else. You can just grab a pouch. You've got some real food, it's no additives, it's 100% natural. And that, will give you that energy when you don't have the time to cook. Having said that, I think also there are some ways that people can really easily introduce real food and cooking real food into their life. And I think the important thing is to, is to upskill, learning how to make really simple recipes, learning how to make a really quick, easy meal that's healthy from basic ingredients. Even learning how to make your own salad dressing, so you can just make that and put onto food. So I think for me, yeah, it's education and really giving people a foundation in cooking and food, so that you can quickly make a meal from real food without any hassle.
Mr. Chris, what is the single biggest change you'd like to see from the sports and nutrition industry to help fix this paradox?
I think I'd love to see people thinking holistically about nutrition. So, understanding that there is a time for really high performance, optimized and processed products, but also understanding the risks that come with them, and realizing that for your body to get energy from food that you eat, first of all, it's got to go into your mouth, and you've got to enjoy eating it. You don't want to get flavor fatigue. You don't want to have something that you can't chew or digest. The next thing is it's got to sit well in your stomach. So in your stomach, it's got to not get rejected. It's not going to make you want to vomit. It's not got to cause you stomach cramps. And then when it gets into your intestine, the intestine has got to be a healthy intestine, so that it can really efficiently extract all the nutrients from the food. And then finally, you get to the metabolism, where actually you need to train your metabolism. You need to have a healthy metabolism. I had metabolic failure because I was pre-diabetic as a result of eating sports nutrition. And so only when you kind of look after the whole system of food going into your body to give you energy, only then can you can you really be be optimized through your nutrition. So thinking about that holistic process is what I would love to see a change in athletes.
Holistic process indeed. How does astronaut model potentially jeopardize long-term metabolic health, hormonal balance, and relationship with food, even to yield short-term performance wins?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much in that. Let's say, for example, sports nutrition often doesn't taste great. It's not very delicious to eat, and there's a huge problem at the moment called relative energy deficiency syndrome, because there's a lot of athletes who just don't eat enough food or energy to fuel the body, that what they're doing, and that can then disrupt your hormonal health in women. That can affect their menstrual cycle. It's remarkable the number of female athletes who I speak to who have got a disrupted hormonal cycle because of their training and because of their nutrition. And but then even worse, that can lead and go on to chronic illnesses, like you can develop osteoporosis from not being kind of well nourished enough as an athlete. So I think this, for me, it's a very, very complicated picture, but at the base of it, food is, we cook it to be delicious. We go to a restaurant to eat delicious, tasty food. And there's no reason why we can't carry that same spirit of gastronomy into sport. And that's why one of the things we talk about at Yana is gastronomy sportive, which is trying to take the same philosophy as food culture and making these delicious, healthy, balanced meals and bringing that into the sporting world.
Very well said, Mr. Chris. These paradox can be especially harmful for youth athletes. What is the most important message for parents and coaches about fueling and developing human on their care?
Yeah, for young athletes in particular, because not only have they got to fuel their training, they've got to fuel their growth and their learning and their development of their brain and their bones as they're growing. So nutrition is even more important for young athletes. And young people can also be really susceptible to body image, to messages from impressions from other people. And so one of my friends, they developed they had a lot of problem when they were younger, because they were obsessed with losing weight, of being performing, of having a good body image. And so I think with young people, it's even more complicated, because there's so many more factors playing on our psychology of what we're eating and what we should look like. So it's hugely important, and we can make food a joy. Food can be a moment where we share it around a table, where we laugh together, where we spend good moments together, and that's why we want to really, bring the fun back to food and eating together.
Again, Mr. Rihanna, very well said. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season too, a comedy 101 in fourth season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in fourth season, and My Baby Podcast, Trivia 101, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and the newest one, Coaching 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Chris, your personal aha moment. Was there a moment in your career or life where you personally saw the paradox clearly and shifted from astronaut to a human approach? What changed for you?
It was actually when I quit my career as an engineer.
Mm.
I realised that as an engineer, I'd been thinking of the human body as an equation, and I realised that all of the sustainable products I've been designing, the electric cars, the recyclable shoes, they didn't fail because the equations didn't work. They failed because of the unpredictability of us humans, because of the irrational things. The electric cars were driven like go-karts. The humans never actually recycled the shoes. And so for me, it was when I started to explore the irrational. And I actually went and studied at art school, because while the rational side of things, the engineering side of things, simplifies the world into being an equation, the world of the arts, the world of the irrational, the emotional, that is unpredictable, dynamic, fluid, ambiguous, and is much closer to the reality of our world and the living world that we're in. And so I switched and I went and studied at art school, and that completely changed my philosophy around an approach to business, to design, to entrepreneurship, um, understanding the irrational and emotional nature of us humans, as well as the being able to simplify us into an equation.
Very well said, Mr. Chris. And thank you so much for sharing your product to the world. Hoping for the best, and I hope you will be successful and more products like this to rise. So, can you please invite the listeners to support your Yana, and well, hoping for the best for you.
Thanks so much.
So, where do people can reach Yana, Mr. Chris?
Yeah, you can find Yana on our website, yana.food. And you can also find us on Instagram at You Are Not an Astronaut. And we have a really good time. We share a lot of fun behind the scenes, a lot of how the products are made, and a lot on our philosophy about having fun, not taking things too seriously, eating well, and looking after this planet.
Yes, people are support Mr. Chris about this newly product Yana, and I hope it will empower people all over the world. I have one more question, Mr. Chris. The 80-20 rule in practice. What does a practical, flexible 80-20 approach look like for a busy person who's trained seriously but also has a job, family, and social life?
My favorite trick is putting a load of sweet potatoes in the oven, roasting them for 20 minutes, and then popping them in the fridge. And then it's the easiest little snack you can have in the world. You can just go and grab a sweet potato. You can eat it in about 10 seconds. And it's the most simple way to have a real food snack. So that's my little tip.
I love sweet potatoes. Yes, how about bananas?
Oh, bananas are great. Yeah, I do. I love bananas as well. banana packaging of a banana. It's it's a miracle for me how biology made that.
And one more question, Mr. Chris, before I let you go. In the age of apps telling us what to eat, how do we learn to trust internal cues like hunger, cravings, and valuable data points?
Mm. I think we can learn a lot from our generations, our ancestors, and I think remembering that most of how we should be, we're taught about food is from our parents, from our grandparents when they cook for us, and I think trusting that knowledge that we've been passed down and asking for that knowledge and sharing of recipes and so on. I think thinking of our knowledge of food like more of a traditional knowledge, and to not forget where a lot of that knowledge.
Well, Mr. Yana, good luck to this product and hoping for the best. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel.
Bodycon people, see you soon.
Say again?